You know, someday if we ever hit the jackpot, these chairs are going, then we're gonna get good chairs. Like if you ever see a grant for chairs,
No.
let's apply for it. I went into the office, I went into the city on Tuesday, so I was in the office all day.
I know, I heard.
And
I'm like, you left the bubble.
my chair in Manhattan isn't as good as the one I have in my home office, and it was my back by the end of the day. I felt it.
I tell Jason, I'm like, oh my God, you left the bubble.
I did. But I'm back in the bubble now. They ask me, when are you coming back again? I'm like, I don't know, maybe next year sometime. Unless I have a meeting, I'm not coming back.
I just sent through that, the Board of Health work session. They're making that way more complicated than what it,
That ordinance?
yes.
Human beings have a tendency to overcomplicate things generally. People tend to take things that are very simple.
Tam
and
had a
make them
really
much
good
more
idea too,
complicated.
and it was shot down. Oh, really? Allison, do you need those flyers? Are you to pick up those flyers?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get them before.
Okay. Thank you.
She just said I'm supposed to give them to you, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'll get hold of it now.
not this early.
Thank you. Did she put one up on the board?
I put them up
Oh,
on the board.
okay, cool.
I told her.
Yeah.
And I put some on the back table.
Yeah, thank you.
But I had to
Smart.
check it because it was only coming up like,
Oh, really?
yeah, but I sized it and then,
Okay.
yeah, they just coming out this way. Yeah, well, I got it off the copier and I'm like, so I called her. So I put it on like, wait,
Why didn't she
almost
print
on
them?
Untitled Township.
Yeah, that's
side, but,
Yeah, cool.
cause I don't want it like overlapping. I said she would have before.
How did she print them? And not on the- She can't print them up, right?
Huh?
She can't print them up.
Yes, she can.
She can.
Yeah, we can print remotely here.
Okay.
It goes to the top of it. It's printed in, yeah, and then it just, yeah. So I called her.
Super, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and I have it added on for announcements.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
A check for $4.20.
Who's it to?
New Jersey State Department of Health and I guess Senior Services
That might be dog licensing.
for $4.20.
Dog licensing or? Something that little has to be something like that.
It says here, infectious and zoonotic disease.
Yeah, that's dog licensing.
Okay.
Is that code for dog license?
It's like the rabies.
I hope I
No.
don't get a zoonotic disease, whatever that is.
It's their, they get certain fees out of the licensing, the license. They break them down into fees.
All right. Am I the only one authorized to sign checks?
Besides Chris, yes.
All right, well, we're gonna have to change.
Yep.
I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're gonna have to change and get somebody in addition so that we have. Maybe you could get Richie Spiegel on.
I feel like I'm missing something.
My cheat sheet, do I have that in here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's look at that, actually. I'll sign the rest of these later. Look at
Frank,
my-
who's gonna do the ordinance, the amending? Or,
No, I have to recuse myself.
I know,
Or
so
that-
Mark or Frank's gonna do it? But who's gonna sign for it? Someone, you all sign, okay.
I'll give you these, I'll give you the rest later.
You answered all my questions without even speaking.
Yeah, when we get to that, I'll leave. All right, here's my cheat sheet.
Oh, Margaret put the budget in there. We've spent 90% of it.
Are we in trouble?
We shouldn't be spending that much of our budget. Apparently, I guess we only should be spending like in the 70s, I think. But it's not good to spend all your budget.
Well, we had cost overruns for Ida.
Yeah, I know.
That's the problem.
It's different from like public sector budget, like when you,
Yeah, but you already look at the gas and diesel thing.
well, speaking of that, it's gone up $300.
Yeah, it's $1 a gallon.
Yeah, we've gone up, so that's increased a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to actually, she's transferring money
Yeah, I know.
just so
that's
we
what I'm
can
looking
cover
at.
that.
Oh, I want to put the museum up here. Yes, what the hours are.
Yeah, vehicle maintenance.
Yeah, I know I had to say something, I just can't remember.
Huh?
I know, that's one thing I had to say, I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, it's just, you know, look, everybody's feeling the pain of this, gas stuff. But it's a good thing, everybody's ordering more stuff online. At your Biden's.
Can't, yeah.
And it's sitting out in the sea.
It's in the biggest traffic jam in the city, right?
400 gallons of propane cost $1,000.
I got 580, I think. It was almost 1,400. You see what you ordered online? When you go on Stem Brothers' website now, when you go to order, they actually have the price on the website. They never used to do that.
It's on the slip too.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can know the damage it's gonna be before you even order it.
And then you get a nickel discount, right?
Minus the nickel if you pay within 15 days.
But you need a minimum, you need to buy a minimum of 400 gallons.
I think so. But you know what? You gotta read the fine print. I think if you do not do a tank fill-up, it costs you a nickel more per gallon. So I think it may wipe that nickel out.
Yeah.
You read the fine print. And also, people get charged different prices. depending on how much you use. Like I got penalized last year. I said, let me get this right. Of course I used less because I got a new furnace and I burn less propane. And I usually, I'm paying like 15 cents more a gallon than I think Ron is or Bob, one of them. So Stan gets screwed because he's only got 500 gallons.
That's all this guy?
Yeah, you know why? Because I enjoy it. He's got a small lot.
I just assumed they were all the same.
No, I
What
don't.
do you have, 800?
I got 1,000 gallons.
Well, same
Yeah,
here.
you can only fill it.
But they're not allowed to fill it any more than 800, right?
Right, because of expansion and stuff, yeah. But you can remember that Stan's lot, his property doesn't go out to where the woods are. That's my property. Like 20 feet behind his pool is my property. Because they put all that wetland stuff, they
Yeah.
put it all on my deed. They didn't want to split the deed up, I guess, because they didn't go to DEP and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So if you look at mine, it's a weird thing, but it goes right out to the fence where Deep Prospero is, like they're post and rail fence. His thing doesn't go, it's saying you want it, you can have it, I don't really care.
You can maintain it.
It just, well, he does anyway usually, you know, it depends, like when he's cutting lawn, but it's just stupid when I
Yeah.
looked at the, you know, the lot configuration. Stupid. Done.
Hey, Frank. Freaking nobody ever says hello to the attorney.
I did.
I did too.
Well, I wasn't here when you did it.
Oh.
But I mean, I don't think people from the audience tend to say hello to the attorney.
Hey, he's getting shout outs from the audience.
Yeah?
I usually just,
You're marvelous.
See that?
try being married to that.
See that?
Chicks.
Yeah, so I go this weekend, so I can't make this either. I know they have these titles different days.
You get,
Yes, next Sunday.
where you get,
For your water. We came out of recommended by somebody from the farmer's market,
oh, cool.
So,
So you're gonna get that kid looking for a home on a farm?
I'm trying to, but you have to get the, well, here's me, George is like, we're adopting a kid, we're adopting a dog, oh my god. You have to go through the New Jersey, like, his foster care and adoption agencies first. And the lady's like, well, that could take like 6 months to be approved. We're like, yeah, all he wants to do is live on a farm from Oklahoma. And he's got a little accent, and talks like this, I'm like, I need to have it. We're just like, it's not a toy. He's 14, it won't be like he'll be with us for a
He's
while.
14.
He's
Well,
14.
you put his
He
house
doesn't-
away.
All he wants to do is live on a farm. That's it. He grew up on a farm, his parents died, and he wants to stay on a farm. So I'm like, well, please, so he's like, I don't care. But I called the New Jersey adoption agency, they're like, oh, we have to do like all these home tests, and you have to, you know, come out and.
So is he an Oklahoma student?
Yeah, so we put in for the paperwork, and I have a friend who works in the state, so that's really hard.
Tired.
But then once they.
Then I'll get home and be like wide awake.
Well, Oklahoma will like FaceTime. Video.
It takes me a while.
Like, so, I mean, that's probably a fail.
You might wanna scrub your social media.
So he wants to
That
ride
you need to
horses.
speak with Tracy.
I don't care.
I know somebody who does.
The kids, well, the kids are like,
Did they, he gets a one?
A majority of us are back in person, or at least hybrid.
That's one that's totally still fully Zoom.
Darcy, I got horses you can ride, so your kids can ride.
Yeah, I don't. Mhm.
How's the new secretary?
She's doing great.
I saw like a
She-
pretty well worded correspondence from her.
Yeah, she's really great.
That's good.
We just did the work session tonight.
Okay.
I just so I could teach her Zoom. So she's good there. She'll be good. She's good to go. She's a quick learner, so.
That's awesome. That's helpful. It's one.
Yes.
Does Zadok Gus know he's early on the
I
agenda?
told him he would be up in the beginning, yes.
Okay.
I don't
Because I assume
know
he's not here.
who he is, what he looks like.
Well, given that there's no he in the audience.
Yeah, that's,
You see, you think they just keep me around for my looks, okay?
Do you know for sure it's a male?
yes, I do. Well, I'm assuming. Sorry. I want to say I spoke with him, but
I thought he called you to set this up.
no, it was email
Oh, it was all
correspondence.
email?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
I got a lot of phone calls and emails that week with different zoning.
We
I
have
don't
to,
remember.
we have to fix our recorded message when you call the municipal building. It sounds
I
really tinny.
know.
When you call Delaware Township, you get this nice one.
Oh, really? They can come to ours.
I called last week and
What happened is I had to do it via the computer.
it sounds really tinny,
Yeah, so
like you're
I
in a
have
tin
to
can.
I have to call in to them and then they transfer it over, so I have to figure it out. I just haven't had the time to focus on it.
It's not an urgent thing. All right, we're almost there. Actually, let me just check something here real quick.
Perfect.
No, okay.
Hey,
You ready, Krista?
Yes.
All right. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 11th monthly meeting of the East Amwell Township Committee. Krista?
In compliance with the Open Publics Meeting Act, this is a regular scheduled meeting pursuant to the resolution adopted on January 4th, 2021, with the meeting notice published in the Hunterdon County Democrat issue of January 14th, 2021. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, Times of Trenton, Star Ledger, Courier News, posted on the bulletin board and township website, and filed in the township clerk's office on November 9th, 2021.
You wanted the roll call?
Mr. Castellano.
Here.
Mr. Mills.
here.
Ms. Ramsey.
Here.
Mr. Sobieski.
I'm here.
And Mr. Wall.
Here. Okay, could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under agenda review, we're just gonna add a couple of announcements.
I think just the one on the museum, right?
Well, I have one.
Oh, okay.
And then you're gonna add the museum.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and do yours before I go through the list?
It's on your agenda.
Oh, okay. All right, the announcements. The Unofficial election results from the November 2nd, 2021 election show that Janet Casper Bloom was elected to the Township Committee beginning January of 2022. It has been a tradition going back years that the existing committee would invite the newly elected member to join us at the dais. So Jenna, if you would you please join us at the dais? And congratulations. Yep, you can sit next to Frank. I look forward to serving with you in 2022. Congratulations.
Same.
The municipal offices will be closed on Thursday, November 25th and Friday, November 26th for the Thanksgiving holiday. The Township Committee is going to hold a special meeting on Wednesday, December 1st at 7 p.m. to receive additional input from Township residents, certain experts, and other interested persons regarding whether the Township should amend its ordinances to allow a retail marijuana sales facility, also known as a micro dispensary, to locate in a commercial area within the Township. I would strongly encourage any interested residents to attend that meeting. The annual holiday gathering and holiday tree lighting is scheduled for Friday, December 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Please bring with you a bird-friendly ornament to hang on the tree and a festive treat for all to share. The Hunterdon County Utilities Authority will hold a hazardous waste collection on Saturday, December 11th from 9 a.m. to 11. That can't be right, to 11 p.m. It must be 9 to 11 a.m.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That would be a long collection day. From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the county complex on Route 12. The Township Committee will hold its second regular meeting in December on Thursday, December 23rd at 7:30 p.m. at the Municipal Building. The Township Committee typically has 2 regular meetings in December, one at the beginning and one toward the end. The one at the end to address any business that we want to clean up before year end. Typically, it's a light agenda.
There's no other way, or no other day to have that meeting.
What, the 23rd?
Yeah,
Because it's 2 days before Christmas.
it's 2
Ah,
days
that's fine.
before Christmas, guys. Can we possibly look at another date?
I'm indifferent if you want to do it between Christmas and New Year's.
I was just gonna suggest before the 23rd, like even just a few days or the week before. I don't know, I know we're limited on space and other meetings and things like that, but if there were any other options.
Well, the problem is we need a window of time, I believe, in between the two in case something is introduced at the first meeting, and I think that window is at least 10 days.
10 days, correct.
And our December meeting right now
The 9th.
is scheduled for the 9th. So
Do the 22nd.
you don't have a lot of
You can have a
options
day
here.
before.
All right.
So are we leaving it at the 23rd? Well,
We can
What is it, the 9th?
look further.
Can
Let's-
you move it?
The
Is there any
20th?
wiggle room? No.
the 20th,
That's a Monday.
What was that? What month was I looking at? I was looking at November.
I don't know about you guys, I just
So
don't.
9th and then
I don't know, do we
28th.
have court on the 20th, or is there not a live court right now?
They're Zoom and they're during the day.
Okay,
Yeah, should be all right.
They're not going back in person.
okay. Well, they'll have to at some point.
No, they're not.
Well, and how are they gonna take care of all these tickets? That,
It's totally virtual now.
so people who don't, will be able to enforce them?
We'll just, you know,
Okay.
but
All right.
So the virtual
I don't
stuff.
care, pick a date.
Can we do the 20th?
It's fine with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Works for me. I got nothing going on.
It's a really busy week, guys, so.
Yeah.
You say it's a Monday?
Yeah.
Is that all right with you guys?
Sure.
Frank? Yeah? Thank you.
Okay. The East Amwell Township Committee Reorganization meeting for 2022 will be held on Monday, January 3rd at 7:30 p.m. at the Municipal Building.
you only have to do the first part of this one.
The East Amwell Township Parks and Recreation Committee will be holding a bingo night on Friday, November 19th. More information can be found on our website under Community Events, and there are flyers on the back table of the meeting room. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I see why you only wanted the first part. Finally, the Quick Collection, which is a collection of township historic memorabilia that has been sitting in boxes in various locations for quite a few years, has finally been unboxed. And certain portions of that collection are going to be on display in our museum starting this Saturday. So the second and fourth Saturdays of the month from 1 to 4 at the museum, you will be able to finally see our Quick Collection. It'll be a rotating exhibit, so various portions will be on display as time goes on. I think this is going to be a fascinating exhibit, just based on some of the information that I've received so far. So anybody who's interested in the history of East Amwell, come to the museum on the second and fourth Saturday and Sunday of the month from 1 to 4 and enjoy the Quick Collection. Item 7, which is special discussions. First up was a presentation by, and I'll probably mutilate the name, but Siddharth Das, regarding a possible recreation facility in East Amwell Township. I guess not. Okay.
What was a recreational facility? Like,
So, what he was proposing is a, I'm gonna mutilate that too.
is it some kind of like
Was it cricket?
cricket? The weapon for the
Yeah.
paddles?
Yes.
Right.
A cricket facility
Oh.
and a in-cage batting, like a batting facility
Oh, that's interesting.
here at East Amwell across from the Shell station.
Oh. Oh, that's cool.
And just wanted to know if that was of interest or,
Take the temperature on.
yeah.
Yeah. Is he going to planning board? Did he go to planning board?
He can't go to planning board because he would need a variance.
Yes, he needs a
Can't go to
variance, so he
planning board
can't go to the planning board
informally.
for.
Right. Okay.
He wanted to take the temperature of the township committee.
No.
Yeah, let's hold this in case he shows up. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, I think, is also going to, unless
No one's here.
the monthly update from the Amwell Valley Ambulance Corps? Not you? Okay. Then I guess that one will pass on also. Patrick told me he wasn't going to make it this month.
I just
That's
keep
right.
it on, so.
Okay, that's right. He
'Cause he
mentioned
doesn't
to me
let
at
me
the
know.
recycling
Yeah.
depot. Okay, so he's not. All right, Sandra Road. We moved that up on the agenda because Margaret, our CFO, if we have any questions, she has to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning to travel, so we wanted to, if we needed to reach her, to call her at a decent hour rather than dealing with this later. So, I met with Krista, Jason, and Margaret to talk about Sandra Road in a little more detail. I also had a discussion with Frank and wanted to report back where things are and at least give my view on how we ought to proceed. The estimate, which you've all seen, assuming that we go with the co-op, which we would, and assuming $50,000 for soft costs, which is basically engineering costs, would come to about $550,000. And that's to do Sandra and all the offshoots on Sandra. So it's a significant amount of road to do. We have a federal grant coming of $404,000. There was a question raised at the last meeting, are we 150% certain that this money could be used for roads? The answer is yes. Frank, do you agree with that?
Again, same answer as last time, yes, with qualifications.
I'll come to the formula, but in terms of assuming you satisfy the formula, there's no issue it could be used for roads.
Correct.
Okay. And Margaret had discussions and had concluded there's no issue. The legislation makes it clear that you could use roads. It specifically references roads. So I don't think there's any issue about the ability to use it for roads. To determine how much of the $404,000 can be used for roads, we have to apply a formula. And that formula is tied to what is presumed to be COVID-related revenue shortfall. But you plug your numbers into a formula and it spits out a number. And you do that for 4 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. And whatever number that spits out, that's what you can use for roads. So for 2020, the number that came out was $132,000. For 2021, Margaret is projecting around $120,000. That would put us to around $252,000. So that leaves an additional roughly $152,000 kind of held in abeyance. 2022, she'll have a better sense of early next year, but it's anticipated that that'll be north of 100. So by the time we get through 2022, the aggregate of the numbers spit out under the formula should be very close to our 404. We may wind up with 40 or 50,000 short, which we would pick up in 2023. So right now, we expect that we will have no issue adding up to the 404 under this formula. The roads are the only permissible use that we are aware of under the current rules that would take pressure off of our budget. There are other purposes that we could use the money for. We could give employees bonuses. We could make donations to nonprofits. But none of that takes any pressure off of our budget. So if we want to take pressure off the budget, the only use is for roads. And since I think the goal here would be to take pressure off the budget, this money would be used for roads. Sandra Road was built in the 1980s. It's nearly 40 years old. It's well beyond its useful life. The road is crumbling. I don't think anybody would dispute that. The people who live on Sandra Road, and there are quite a few, when you add it up, the people who live on Sandra Road and the offshoots, those are generally higher-end homes. That development, the people take great pride in their homes. If you go through that development, it's a pretty development. And those people pay a lot of taxes. That's not to say that people who pay a lot of taxes should necessarily get things, but when you are living in a development with a road that's 40 years old, that wasn't really done right to begin with, and you're paying lots of taxes, and your road is crumbling, it's not unreasonable to want your municipality to fix your road. Sandra Road is not the only road that's going to have to be addressed. We have several others in the township that are going to have to be addressed over the next 10 years or so, including Harvest Hill. Harvest Hill is second in terms of roads that need to be fixed. It's not a distant second. That road is also falling apart. That road also has the problem of it's sinking in places. And I don't mean by inches, it's sinking by a lot more than that. There are parts of it that are just sinking. It's impacting the drainage. So that's not something that can just be left for another 15, 20, 30 years. That road's going to have to be addressed. That will not be cheap either. None of these developments, at least under current law, would qualify for a grant. New Jersey doesn't give grants for these kinds of roads. So the people who live on those roads, if we're waiting for a grant to do those roads, those people are going to be waiting a long time because a grant, at least under current law, isn't coming. And in fact, the grants seem to be getting less in dollars rather than more. We can't really push this to future township committees. One of the things that I've realized is that there's a tendency on the part of at least some local governments to try to kick the can down the road to the next administration because nobody wants tax increases during their administration. That's just fiscally irresponsible. So the notion of continuing to kick this down the road is just going to be a bigger problem for future administrations. And it's not going to get cheaper. Like everything else, the cost of doing road construction goes up over time. We are hoping and anticipating actually that it will be cheaper to do it next year than this year because the expectation is that prices will come down. The inflated prices that are in place right now will come down. And the existing estimate of $550 had a significant cushion built in, so the hope and the expectation is that we'll be able to do Sandra for less than $550. But I don't see how we can just kick this down the road, saying that, well, we'll wait till next year and see what the budget looks like. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me because there's only one use for these federal funds, and that's roads. So your only choice, you have three choices. Don't use the funds, give them back to the federal government. Well, that's just dumb. Use the funds for Sandra Road or use the funds for one or more other roads. Well, if you use the funds for one or more other roads, then what do we do with Sandra Road? Just let it sit there and continue to get worse and more expensive to fix? That doesn't seem to me to be very sensible. So to me, the logical conclusion is that we ought to use these federal funds for Sandra Road, that we ought to make a decision so that we can have the engineer start working on the design. And we're down the road going to have to start putting money in the budget to address Harvest Hill. That doesn't mean we put enough money in the budget in a single year. That would be a budget buster, but we're going to have to start putting some money aside each year, build up a slush fund, and get ready to address Harvest Hill. And then after Harvest Hill, we have Fox Hunt that needs to be addressed. And then there are a couple of others that have to be addressed over time. But we're trying to take them from the worst and work our way backwards. So with that, are there any questions?
So I also spoke to some of the same people that you referenced, plus some additional ones. And I am under the same understanding that based on this year's formula, or the formula for the 2020 COVID loss, it's a 130 or 132. And I thought that Margaret had said 100,000 would be her estimate for 21, not 100, but $20,000 is that's fine. My question would be, if that's only half of the cost, it's less than half of the cost of the 550, and we have to wait for the formula to calculate what our revenue loss will be for 22 and then 23, and then those numbers should be going down every year because theoretically our COVID revenue loss is not as high. So if it was 100 this year, arguably it'll be less in 2022 and then arguably less in 2023. So how will we cover the full 550 with the 402 that we're getting if we break it out over each year? Because, and also speaking with township employees, I was told that we should not break this project up. It should be done all in one fell swoop, because you're paying extra labor, you're paying extra materials, all that kind of stuff. So how would we, I guess, pay for Sandra Road potentially all of next year if we don't have full access to the entire 402 amount that we're expecting?
Well, we have an estimate with the soft costs of $550. The hope and the expectation is that's high, but let's assume it's not. Let's go with the $550. Right now, Margaret is comfortable that by the time we get through 2023, we'll have more than enough in the formula for the 404, which seems logical because even if this goes down significantly, we're at 252 of 404 right now. So over the next 2 years, we need about another 150. And in 2020, we had 132. In 2021, we had 120. So even if 2022 and 2023 drop, there should still be enough in the formula to get us to the 404 without any problem. That leaves us with a gap of approximately $146,000, which we would have to put into the budget in our capital and use that to pay for Sandra Road. If we opted to do Sandra Road in 2022 and we didn't have full access to the 404, let's assume we had access to 360, so we were 44 short. What I had discussed with Margaret is robbing Peter to pay Paul, which is every year we have road projects that we budget for. In the last few years, we've been budgeting $125,000 to $150,000 for road projects. You're looking at me like I'm weird.
No.
Oh, okay.
Pay attention.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
Okay.
Right.
So what we would do is if we were short by $45,000, we would simply defer one of those projects till 2023, use the money in 2022 that we were going to use for that project for Sandra Road. Then in 2023, when the rest of the federal funds free up, we would use that money to pay Paul. And Margaret is comfortable with that. I also should mention that I asked Margaret the following question. Do you believe that this is a fiscally responsible project for the township to undertake? And her answer was yes. And Krista was there, so she'll tell you I'm not misrepresenting the question or the answer. That's how we would grapple with any shortfall. Any other questions? Frank, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Jenna? Okay.
Any of this money has to go back?
The 404, if assuming that the formulas spit out 404, which we expect they'll do easily, and we use it for roads, no. The problem with this federal aid is it really wasn't set up for small towns like East Amwell. It was set up for large cities that offer a lot of services. So when you get to a small town like East Amwell, even though the legislation has a whole host of uses, we don't have any of those. We don't have a water authority. We don't have a lot of these services that other cities do. So the aid is great, it's appreciated, but it limits us to basically just roads, which is fine because, for years we took money and we put it into farmland preservation. Well, unless we were going to raise taxes a lot on the residents, which would not have been a wise thing to do, something had to give, and that was the roads. And that, to me, in my view, was a sensible decision. Putting the money into farmland preservation, letting the roads go, that to me was a sensible decision. That's why we have the town that we have. That's why we're not Raritan Township. So I think that was sound policy. The problem is now we're left to deal with the roads. And we have roads that are in really bad shape. And so we're gonna have to fix those roads. We're not necessarily looking to give people pristine roads, but we have to give people safe roads, and roads that aren't crumbling. And as I've said a number of times, if we don't use these federal funds for Sandra Road, I don't know when these roads are going to get done. And you can see that how the residents who live on Sandra Road feel about this. They've been here twice already. They've sent us emails. I don't know if they've reached out individually to any of you. They have to me. But this does seem to be a very fiscally responsible project for the township to undertake. And it isn't complicated. The money can only be used for roads. So either we're using it for Sandra Road or we're using it somewhere else, or we're giving it back. Those are our choices.
Essentially, this project's gonna start in 2023.
Well,
That's where we're talking about.
it would, the goal was to do it in '22, the fall of '22. If it had to roll into the spring of '23, then so be it, but it could be done in the fall of '22, assuming we make a decision soon and authorize the engineer to start doing work on it. But whether it's the fall of '22 or the spring of '23, if we want to get it done, it takes a long runway, because the engineer has to do their work, and then the plans have to be approved, and then they have to go out to bid, and then you have to get in the queue, and then there's a fair amount of prep work that has to be done before any blacktop is laid. So it's not a 1 or 2 month runway. Jason said he's going to need close to a year runway from beginning to end to get all of this done.
Right, but to find out if we're close to the number, you'd have to get the kick out from 2022 year-end, their budget, when you put it through the state mixmaster to get the formula number. How if the number comes out 0 and we got 130, 120, and 0?
Then we don't move forward with the project. If we don't have enough money, we just tell the engineer to stop the work they're doing. But you won't have to wait till the end of '22, just like you don't have to wait till the end of '21 to get an estimate for '21. Margaret said that she thinks she'll have a reasonably accurate estimate of '22 in early '22. But right now, Margaret is comfortable that when you run these numbers through the formula in '22 and '23, we're going to come up with enough to cover the balance of the 404.
What's the cost of the engineer part?
The hard costs are just shy of 500. The soft costs are typically 10% of the hard costs, so we added 50, that gets you the 550. And the hard costs are getting the roads prepped, and getting them code compliant. Sandra Road is not code compliant right now. The sewer grades aren't code compliant. The crossovers aren't code compliant. And then resurfacing the road. And it's not just Sandra, Jenna, it's all the offshoots. Fisher, Hart, and
Michael.
thank you, Michael. Yes. And I counted the number of houses on all those roads, and I wrote it down, and I forgot to bring it with me, but I believe it was well over 40. It was around 40-something houses, I think.
Did you know that you can view your exact location on a map, whether you're in the city?
Again, Francis.
Computers don't like me. What can I say?
So,
Don't like me either.
That's the soft costs.
So the plan B, though, if we don't make this number, is to allocate it to other roads in the township?
Well, it depends, Mark. If we don't make the number by $10,000, then we would stay with Plan A. If we don't make it by $20,000, I think we'd stay with Plan A. Right now, we're going to be about 152 off of the 404 for 22 and 23. We've had 252 for 20 and 21. 22 isn't going to zero. I mean, it's not impossible, but you have to make some reasonable assumptions when you're planning for the future, since no one has a crystal ball. Reasonable assumptions are that we're going to have no issue hitting the 404. If we're off by a little bit, I would think it's still Plan A.
Well, do we have a number that we're willing to, you know, if it's 60, is it still continue?
It depends on where the cost comes in. If it comes in at 550 and you're 60 off, then we'd have to regroup. If the cost comes in at 490 and we're 60 off, then we're exactly where we are right now.
So is that something we determine at the end of 22 or mid-22? I mean, I'm just trying to kind of solidify this a little bit. Like, again, I don't have a problem with the Sandra Road thing, but if we're not close to the number, or we are, if it's 10% away or 20% away, do we have a tolerance for saying, all right, we're going to have to allocate more money from somewhere else? Or do we say, you know what, we're not going to do it, we're going to allocate it to other roads?
It's no different than if you sit down and say, am I going to buy a new car? You're going to say, yeah, I'm willing to buy a new car if it costs $50,000. If it's 60 or 70, I'm not going to buy the new car. We don't make the decision until you go to the dealer and see what the new car costs. If the new car costs 50, you buy it. If it costs 70, you don't. The way this would work is we go to the engineer works up the plans, we put the plans out to bid, the bids come in.
Okay.
When the bids come in, we have to make a decision. By the time the bids come in, you're going to know your 2022 number with a very high degree of certainty. So your risk here is the engineering costs that you're fronting for Sandra Road. That's your risk, that you front those costs and you come back and say, this is too expensive, we can't do it right now. And that doesn't mean you've wasted the engineering costs. You just may have to wait until construction costs come down, or you may have to wait a few years and budget some additional money. So the real issue isn't, are you approving Sandra Road? We're not prepared. I wouldn't be prepared to say we're approving Sandra Road because I don't know what it's going to cost. We're working on estimates. All I'm looking to do is get people to say, okay, we're willing to authorize the engineer to go ahead and start working on this. I'll want a budget from the engineer because I want to make sure that the 10% soft cost budget is around that number so that we don't get a $100,000 engineering bill. So first step would be to say to Bill, give us an estimate to do the engineering work on Sandra Road. If that estimate comes back around the $50,000 that we expect, we say to Bill, go ahead and put together the plans that you need to put this out to bid. Then we put it out to bid, we see what the numbers look like. By that time, we'll know 2022, and then we either go thumbs up or thumbs down, or hey, we're going to wait a year or two, or whatever. But right now, we're frozen unless we authorize the engineer to go out and do the work so that we can put this out to bid, because we can't put it out to bid without the drawings, without the specs. And we're going to want a detailed set of specs because in the past, projects have been done without detailed specs, and you have problems. We want a detailed set of specs so that there are no issues. And we're going to do the road right so it's not falling apart again in 10 years. Because I have seen one of our neighboring municipalities repave roads and just do a hack job, and 3 years later the road's cracking. And that's just dumb. The goal here would be to do Sandra Road and then have a road that's good for another 30 or 40 years. So that none of us, other than maybe Jenna, will have to think about it again. Because I don't think I'll be around in 30 or 40 years. So that's the question. Are we willing to authorize the engineer to move forward?
So a month ago, we did not have this information regarding the formulas, and we didn't have this level of assurance that we could use for roads. We did not have that a month ago. So I think the diligence that has gone forward over the past month has been time well spent. So I don't think we've kicked the can down by a month by any means. I think we've gotten some more firm answers. think we feel more comfortable with at least that we can use the money based on what the formula outputs every year. I still have a concern around the estimate is 550. We have 404. That's $146,000 that's not accounted for. So that does concern me. But at this point, to continue with, or to move forward with the engineering costs, I am aligned to that because we do have to use this money. Really, the only way that I can see it in the conversations I've had, guys, is roads. I've spoken with other municipalities that have have gone as far to say that they don't know how they're going to use this money, and they're afraid they're going to have to give it back. And those are other counties and towns close to us. So, in speaking even with the county, their commentary was that East Amwell really, this was not written for East Amwell. We don't have a lot of ways to actually spend this money. So if we can use it for roads, and we have been able to verify that over the past month, then, I am comfortable with moving forward with this portion of the engineering part of it. I do think we need to see that, and then I personally think it's a good idea to see where we land this year. If we're gonna have a good idea in 2022, like first quarter of 2022, where Margaret thinks we're gonna land at the end of 2022 by first quarter of next year, and then we have even a better sense of how close we're gonna get to that 404, then I think that's a good idea as well. So, if it means we spend a little money now and we have some time to really vet and verify that we can actually use these dollars appropriately by Q1 of next year, then I think that makes me feel more comfortable. I think that's a better use of this money and being more responsible with it than maybe just of approving it a month ago when we didn't have all these details. So.
And what are the upfront costs for engineering?
About 50. I will get Bill Burr to give us an estimate so that we have comfort that we're going to stay within that range, that it's not going to come in at 100. But Jason said industry practice is the soft costs are 10% of the hard. And I actually had somebody else tell me that in conjunction with a project in Clawson Park, that typically the soft are about 10%. But we would be approving this on the condition that the soft costs are at the 50.
Or less.
Or, yeah, no more than the 50. So the question is, well, let me ask before I make any sort of motion. Does anybody else have any questions? And Jenna, feel free to chime in if you have anything.
Just one. We've carefully looked at the all scenarios regarding other roads that need some attention too. I guess the only, I'm not opposed to this. My only concern is it's a lot of money for one road, and our budget's only like $3.5 million, right? So we're going to approve essentially $550,000 for one road. I just want to make sure that makes the most fiscal sense, because we aren't touching the Harvest Hill, we aren't touching the Fox Hunt, like you said. As long as we do our due diligence and we're certain that there isn't a way that we could help additional residents too. I mean, you said there's about 40 residents off that offshoot.
Bear in mind,
about 40 residents in
bear in mind that the roads that we get grants for example, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we got a state grant to do half of Willisowitz.
I saw that.
Willisowitz is going to cost about $500,000. We got a $200,000 grant to do half. We're going to have to kick in 50. The next year, the expectation is we'll get another 200. We'll have to kick in 50. So even when we get these state grants, we have to kick in money because the grants don't cover the soft costs and certain other costs. You never get everything you ask for. And Ridge Road, I think, was around 500. So when you say it's a lot of money, yes, it is. But that's what a road is in East Amwell. Unless you're doing a small road. If you're doing Iron Horse or something, no. But the typical couple mile road, and it's $250,000 a mile. So a 2 mile road is $500,000.
But in essence, it's more than just Sandra Road.
Right, it's Michael, it's Hart, it's Fisher Court, it's Sandra. It's 4 roads, if you will, and they're all together, and there'll be a cost savings associated with doing that. That's why it makes sense to do this in one shot. That's why we don't generally do half roads. Like with Willisowitz, we'll hold the grant money, wait till next year, hopefully get the grant, and then do Willisowitz in one shot, because you save money doing it in one shot. So yes, it's a lot of money. That's the nature of the beast.
Scope though, Rick?
That's a grant we received from
It's
the
a grant.
state.
Yeah, but the grant wasn't available for Sandra,
We
right?
can't get
You
a
don't
grant
get
for Sandra.
grants for
Subdivisions.
subdivisions.
Got it. Okay.
So with that, I would like to make a motion that, to move forward with getting an estimate from Bill Burr. And if the estimate is $50,000 or less, we authorize him to start work. If it's more than $50,000, I come back to the township committee and we talk about it. So could I have a motion to approve that?
I'm sorry, Rick, how long do we think that process is gonna take with Bill?
Well, knowing Bill and how busy he is, it'll
Yes.
take a little while for him to give us the estimate. I would say a few weeks,
I'm
maybe a
just trying
month.
to think, because I know we're trying to have these open to the public budget meetings in January
Yeah,
and
it might be
February.
like a month or.
I'm just wondering if we authorize this now, we get the numbers back from him, can we include that in the open to the public budget meetings we're gonna have in January? And have it be part of that conversation as well?
We can put anything in the budget meetings that you'd like to
Yeah,
discuss
so
with the
that would
public.
be my modification to the,
Motion.
motion that you just made.
Okay, that's fine.
Just so we can have it be a part of like the real budget process, and make sure we then, yeah, that would be my suggestion.
Okay, so, can I have, I made the motion?
I'll
Any-
second
All in favor?
it. Aye.
Jenna, you don't officially vote, but if you were officially voting,
Aye.
thank you. It's also fair if you feel you don't have enough information because you just got to the seat, it's fair to say I'd like to pass and think about it, but I would like to get your input.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're doing that at 50,000?
I'm gonna talk to Bill Burr tomorrow and ask him to prepare an estimate as quickly as he can.
Okay, with under 50,000, all right.
Well, I have to think about whether I want to give him a number because water
Isn't that
tends to
what-
fill the container that it.
No,
you
he's
know.
talking about don't give him a number and see what he comes
Six
back with.
back.
Come back with 7.
That's right.
Because if he comes back with 30.
If he was
No, no,
planning
no,
on
no.
coming back
Yeah.
with 30 and we tell him we've out,
Absolutely.
right, so I'd rather just,
Now watch
So
the
I'm just gonna,
video.
I'm
You know-
just, the motion now, I'm just gonna put that an estimate from engineer.
Provide the
Right.
supervisor and listen to.
you know, water fills whatever spill it's allotted, or whatever
All right,
space
okay,
it's allotted,
okay, I
so.
understand. I just didn't wanna put the wrong wording.
All right. Let's see, what's next here? Nothing in executive session, so now we're up to acknowledgements. There are 2 that I'd like to make today. First, today is Veterans Day. So I'd like to acknowledge all the veterans, and we have many in East Amwell Township, and thank them for their service to our country. Second, as I mentioned earlier, we did get a grant to do Willisowitz the first half. That grant was the product of a lot of work by Jason Silverthorne, Margaret, our CFO, and our engineer, Bill Burr. Those grants are not easy to get. It takes a lot of work, and you have to convince the state that you're worthy of the grant. So I'd like to thank Jason, Margaret, and Bill for all their effort in getting us that grant, and wish them luck in getting us another one next year so that we can do Willisowitz. The folks on Willisowitz deserve a little bit of relief. They had a really rough time with Ida, so maybe this will brighten things up a little bit, knowing that they're going to get a new road. Their road will be fixed. Minutes, we have two sets to approve this evening. We have the October 14th, 2021 executive session minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
John, you weren't here last.
Oh, you
month.
have to abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Should he
Couple of
rescind his
months.
second?
Second?
Still second.
Okay.
All right, and then everybody's in favor?
Yep.
Okay.
John abstains.
And then we have the October 14th, 2021 regular minutes. Could I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Special committee reports. We have here Environmental Commission Electric Vehicle Grant.
Okay, my name is Allison Kapchuk. I'm from the Environmental Commission, and I am the secretary. So we were approached by Flow, which is an electrical vehicle consultant, about placing EV DC fast chargers within the township. It's an initiative that is being provided by a grant through PSCNG, and they would like to come out to the township and possibly explore opportunities of installing these DC fast chargers in township areas. So they approached us about a month ago. We discussed it at our 25th meeting, so you can see the details of that. Mark was on that, and Krista as well. So they're a designer and manufacturer of EV charging station and hardware and equipment. They're a consultant, so they don't charge to work with any contractor. They would hire contractors that are approved through the state of New Jersey to come out and install this equipment. They have their contractors are approved by the state, or they could use one of our approved vendors. So they partner also with ChargePoint, which is the primary EV charger for America. I think Flow are headquartered out of Canada, so they're kind of trying to make themselves known here. So they function as the consultant. They sell the product and charge a yearly software upkeep of about $150 per year per port. And that year, that's for upkeep and management, 24/7 driver support, and so on. So they would sell us the charging station, sell the network software services, and customer service and whatnot. And the consumers would pay when they charge. The charging would then provide revenue back to East Amwell. And the stream municipalities that we would benefit from via markup, which Flow would help determine. So everything's very hypothetical right now, because obviously they would want to come out and see where it would make sense within the township. So the main grant that would support this is being provided through PSCNG's Make Ready program. So they would site host for us, for example, we would receive up to $30,000 per locale. And that would lay the infrastructure into the stations, and PSCNG would cover from the behind the meter work, from the pole to the meter, like underground of the station. So that's about up to 80%. Per the PSCNG program, if a site has power that can be tapped into, they would provide an extra $7,500 towards pulling that power. But then again, hypothetical, they would have to come out and see first and see if it would be feasible, and then we would look at that. So, like, say if we needed to lay conduit and trenching and so on and so forth, they would provide that money. And if we don't have excess power, PSCNG would then provide an additional $10,000. So it's a pretty significant grant to provide these electric vehicle charging stations. So we could have as many as 4 ports at a site, so that would equal the grant amount. So, and correct me if I'm off on.
It sounds
Sounds
right.
Okay, good. I'm making sense. So the EV station install costs vary, so that what obviously Flow would like to do is they'd like to come out and do a site visit and see. They'd have their own engineerings and site inspection. They would come out and say it makes sense to have it at the municipal building, for instance, or at the post office, and so on and so forth. So that's basically what we would like to move forward with, if you feel it's feasible to have Flow come out with their engineers and say, makes sense to have it here, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is when then we can submit that to PSCNG and get approval for the grant. And that grant is on a rolling basis. There's also other grant, the BPU grant, which covers, I believe the deadline for that grant is actually on December 6th, but it's supposed to be there for enhancing tourism, and I felt that maybe we could benefit from that, being that we're a thoroughfare to New Hope and Lambertville. We could get a little piece of that as well. And that would certainly help. So the grant, and correct me if I'm wrong, the grant is a rebate. structure, right?
We, if I'm not mistaken, we had to pay up front
We
for
pay
it,
up front and then we get
and then
reimbursed.
submit for the rebates or grants and
Exactly.
stuff like that.
Yes.
So therefore, you pay for that installation, you get the money back, and the grants do not cover the hardware and software, that's the remaining 20%, so obviously we want to tap into the possibly the BPU grant for that as well to help offset that. And we just feel within tap with our Sustainable Jersey we're trying to work for, and coming into the 21st century, basically, there's no hiding from it, there's more and more electric vehicles out there, we're on a main thoroughfare between Philly, Trenton, New York, a lot of day trippers, and more and more people are going to be getting electric vehicles, so it would be, I think, a feasible thing to have at the township.
And I believe they pay to charge, right?
Yes, they do. So
So,
that's where it is.
I think we get something out of that.
So yes, that will be the markup. So basically, like the, let me see where I wrote that down. That's, they sell the charging stations and the consumers pay when they charge. So the flow would calculate a markup for it that we would ultimately benefit from. So, and just from the village standpoint as well, it would be really good to have, and just given our location. So the Environmental Commission is really interested in pursuing this. And wanted to get the committee's input as to locations, and if we could have members of Flow come out and spec out locations, if you feel it's feasible.
I also believe the state is doing grants as well for this, that they just published. So that's something we can look into as well.
Okay. Cool.
Well, full disclosure, I'm actually looking to buy an electric vehicle, so just for full disclosure, I have an interest, although I would be charging it at home, but I'm actually a big fan of electric vehicles and renewable energy in general. I have been thinking about this for a while. I've been doing some poking around on my own. Putting in one of these charging stations, the all-in cost is expensive. It can be $150,000 or more. If a grant is going to cover all or virtually all of that, that's great. That takes care of the cost issue. Obviously, it's a worthy endeavor. And these grants won't be here forever, because as more and more places put in the charging stations, the grants will go down. It's no different than with electric vehicles. You don't get credits for Tesla anymore because Tesla hit its cap and you don't get the credits. So it's no different than anything else. The credits are at their highest when what they're looking for you to do is at its lowest. So if we're looking to maximize the credits, now would be the time to do it. I don't know that we would want to put one in the village, because I don't think we want to attract more traffic into the village. And the other question I have, and maybe Bill Burr, our engineer, could give us some insight on this. The people who live in East Amwell or around East Amwell are going to be charging their electric vehicles at home. These charging stations are for people who are traveling.
Yes.
And so the question is, how many people are going to be traveling? Let's say we wanted to put it on 202. How many people are going to be traveling on 202 that are going to need to stop and recharge? And I just don't know the answer to that. I know when they built the hotel further north on 202, that beautiful hotel, I thought, they're crazy. Who needs a hotel there? When I take the bus into New York City in the morning, that hotel the parking lot's full. So somebody's coming in and staying in a hotel over there. So maybe there is a lot of through traffic going through, and we would get a fair amount of usage. And then the question is, where would you put it so that it's not creating issues for the residents? I mean, the municipal parking lot is a good location, as long as we don't think we're going to get a lot of cars going in and out of there to recharge, because you don't want to worry about the liability issues of people backing into parked cars or whatever. Yeah. But obviously, this municipal building has a very good location on 202.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We
We're
would
gonna
have no
have
more than
overnighters
4.
who park out there too.
Really?
Absolutely.
The egg exchange.
Well, the egg exchange,
The egg
yes.
exchange.
But
I mean, we had a car out there, they were sitting out there for hours.
Yeah.
look, I'm a big
scary.
fan of renewable energy. I think it's crazy to be focusing on coal as a fuel source. That's just nuts. I mean, I'm a big fan of renewable energy. I what is the downside of us moving forward with this? It doesn't cost us anything to move forward and get more information. The Environmental Commission's willing to do the work. So this to me only has upside and no downside, so I don't know why we wouldn't approve it.
Fantastic.
Did I miss anything?
No, you did not. I agree with you that definitely our location, being the thoroughfare if we go to, would make the most sense. And we wouldn't have any more than 4, because that's the thing. So we would only, if we were hypothetically to have it in the municipal building parking lot per se, then we would have no more than 4 there. So, and it would be quick. These are people that are stopping, they'd sit for 20 minutes.
The last charging before Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the last
And
charge.
it's a chicken and egg, because, I want to get an electric vehicle. Kathy, my wife, is nervous about it because she's concerned there aren't a lot of charging stations. And if you're driving somewhere and you start, so, it's chicken and egg. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people like my wife who would embrace the concept if there were more charging stations and they were comfortable that they're not going to be stranded somewhere and can't charge their vehicle. So
I know Sustainable Jersey does have 14 other charging stations in the county right now. And then if you just do a simple search, I mean, they provide you an app, and they just, when you're driving the car, it says your next charging, you're running low on charge, your next station is coming up in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think the closest one here is Wawa.
Yeah, well, the Wawa has
Those are Teslas.
Tesla.
There is a charging station at one of the dealerships as well.
Okay.
But it's like in the back.
Look, the estimate that for them to come out,
What's that?
You just need us to say Flo can come and
Yeah.
do an assessment.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and they'll
we're
provide their
good.
engineers and come out, and they will provide us with the cost.
they'd be more customized as
Analysis.
opposed to we had a kind of a generic
Yeah.
presentation, so they can,
Yeah.
and it all seems like, wow, it'll cover everything.
And they would have to tell us what locations they're considering
Right.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, they'll look at the proposed location, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And we're
the proposed
proposing-
location.
They're gonna propose
Right.
location.
The
They're gonna
biggest
say
thing
this
is
work.
how
They do
close
an
you are
evaluation.
to a
Yes.
power source.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
because once you start digging, trenching everything, then the costs start to escalate.
Yeah.
So let's
So-
see what they come back with and we can revisit.
So I'll go out and I'll schedule to have Flo come out, and then by next, well, there isn't a meeting, so next meeting we'll have it. Okay, that'll be perfect.
Thanks, Allison.
Excellent, thank
Allison,
y'all.
can I ask something real quick?
Yes.
So if we host these out in the parking lot, can the township, I'm not familiar with how electric vehicles work, does the township charge people to charge their cars here?
Well, Flo would, that's how the
That's how they
charging
get paid.
would provide the revenue. So
Okay.
basically, it would come in and Flo would calculate a piece of that revenue, which would go back to East Amwell.
Okay, good, so we could make money off of this,
Oh, yeah.
basically. All right, cool,
Yep.
yeah.
Now,
They're
we just
trying to
gotta
make
hope a lot of
Cali
people
House
pull into
go on
East Amwell,
into
and
the US.
that's kind of the caveat there. It's just like, do you want like a ton of people sitting for 20 minutes at a time in the parking lot? And it's,
Yeah, bringing them
Now,
money.
Allison, who's their partner again here in the US?
their partner is Charge Points.
I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, it wasn't something like familiar.
Yeah.
Right, but they
But
have,
ChargePoint, what they do is they have an interoperability agreement between their app and ChargePoint. So if you have a ChargePoint charger, you can pull up to a Flow charger and charge your heart out,
Yeah.
and it would work. So they would accept it. So
We all
I should-
attended the meeting.
yeah,
no, it's just to have a strange arrangement with,
Right.
Even, because
Because
Flow's got 90% of like the Canadian market.
Yes,
or
they're
something.
based out of Canada.
But they have little to no presence here,
Little
but they're
nothing
making the
here.
push,
They're
and
based
not
out of
their
Quebec.
co-company, so
Yep.
that's the kind of, but yeah, it's worth it, I think definitely for the EC to pursue it.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think it would be a good idea to apply for that BPU grant anyway? Because that is due soon.
I would get it started.
Something, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Perfect.
As a placeholder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, good. And we're gonna talk about the quarterly report or no?
No,
Oh, okay, good.
no.
Allison, I've heard many good things about your efforts, thank you.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying myself
It's
here.
really
We've got
nice. The
a
Environmental Commission is
ton
up
of
and
great
running, and
things
it's
down
great.
So
We just
we're-
have to get you guys some more members, but it's great.
Yes, well, we have one member from the school, I think that's gonna be joining us, and, we're just working on that, and we're having a lot of fun too, so it's fun we have as you can probably tell from the quarterly report that Marnie put together, we have a lot of things down the pike, so.
Perfect.
It's working out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Allison.
Allison.
Okay, we are now open to the public. Could I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public? Francis?
Francis Gaffigan, 123 Wurtsville Road, Ringgoes, New Jersey. I think it's a great idea that you're asking Bill Burr for an estimate, and that hopefully he will not be watching this video and saying, oh, well, I can go up to 50 and above. But it might be worth considering, since there's a lot of other roads in East Amwell that are in bad shape. You've listed some, but not all. Shut up, cell phone. Jing, it's haunted. To ask for a bifurcated estimate. Sandra Road's the main road that people cut through on. And what would be the cost for doing the stuff for that? And then for the side roads or the cul-de-sacs or the little things, the people that are off of that, well, then that might nibble away at your $550,000. Shut up, cell phone. For a, I mean, I want them to have the best road that they can get, but we also we can't afford gold-plated roads. Tarmac is fine. Shut up, cell phone. I sent money overseas and it's dinging me. For that, to leave some money for Les's Road, which is, or even other places. And while you're doing bids and grants, I would ask that all of you drive up North Hill Road. I'm sure many of you have. I had the questionable joy of pulling a horse trailer with horses in it up there, and it can break an axle on two sides simultaneously, and you crawl at about 2 miles an hour, and there's probably the same number of people and homes living up there on that road. So put in your money for your grant, and you're going to be having to fix a lot more roads than Sandra and grants and things like that. So it doesn't cost anything to get an estimate, and then when an estimate comes, then you accept it or you look at it and you take care of that. But go up North Hill, with potholes filled on Sandra, they're a lot better. And for the wanting to slow down the speeding in the village, Sandra Road is a wonderful example, because what they have there is, when they built that road, and I went down it and I took pictures, they did it in 30-foot sections, and the ground has sunk between those 30-foot sections. So it's an inverse speed bump that automatically slows your sorry took us down. And I know that people would not be happy if you put speed bumps in the village or rumble strips. You'd get those complaints. But there's something to be said for the inverse speed bumps in a residential area that are on Sandra Road. And I don't think, I did go down the side roads as well, some longer than the others. But, I think it is fiscally responsible to have an expectation that you're going to be fixing a lot of roads, and you're going to be tight on fixing these roads, and that if people are going to want to keep taxes low and budgets down and all of that other stuff, that to look at it with a realistic eye towards what revenue will be coming and the possibility of something unexpected coming down and biting us. I don't think you had an expectation at the start of the year that you were going to have to do as much patching on that section of Rocktown Road between Linvale and Wurtsville Road. For the last 2 or 3 years, that's been an issue because of the water table, the creek, and, water bubbles up there like crude in Jed Clampett's farmyard. There are other places in East Amwell where things are going to deteriorate, and be prepared. I think Mark Your development is probably, what, 10 years younger than the one from Sandra in the
15.
mid-90s? 15, okay. Les, how old is your development, Harvest Hill? Is it comparable to Sandra Road?
It's nowhere near as bad as Sandra Road.
I know, but is it comparable in age?
It was built before I moved here. I guess it was built back in the 70s.
Okay, well, they had a better developer. Or maybe before they start. Anyway, be careful, think twice, measure twice, cut once. I learned the hard way, but I had bolted in the barn that I built when I didn't know about what a ridge line was. And I was able to fix and learn from my mistake. We all want nice and shiny, pretty and new, and to help people. But we may have to, especially since it's open-ended on what the real actual numbers are going to be for the first year's loss debit, losses due to COVID, second year, third year, 4 year. You really don't want to shoot it all on one road if you can make it serviceable. There's the old term, good enough for government work. Make the roads that you do with the limited money that you have good enough for government work, not for Boca Raton or something like that. Last month, and I respect the individual that was here. It was a great idea that, if we all just paid a $330 surcharge across the township, that would have paid for Sandra Road. That was a great idea a month ago, except to those of us who would not be living on Sandra Road or doing it. But $330 is a lot of money to some of the seniors that are living here, and I'm not including myself. I was talking to the gentleman that wrote the letter 6 months ago about the marijuana and being so concerned. They're figuring they're going to be having to move out of town next year, and that will be a loss. There's a lot of others that have reverse mortgages, and they can't get any more money out of their reverse mortgages. And they've got to scrabble together pennies to pay their taxes and then to deal with the damage that there is no grants for. There are no grants for, or funds or township coming. The lady who 40 foot of her road washed away 2 storms ago to get to her house, she had no money coming in. A gentleman fixed it out of the kindness of his heart, and she's got, a little over $3,000 bill, but that is an awful lot of money. That is the equivalent of $500,000 to some of the people that live here. So we spend our money on the schools because they're the future. We honor our veterans because we have our future and our present because of their sacrifice. We also owe that to the senior citizens and the people who are on limited incomes trying to stay in New Jersey and not wanting to leave, but who are hanging on by their fingernails and they're not manicured. 75, 80-year-old people should not be doing home health aid care for people 20 years older than them just to make the money to pay their taxes. So $330 or whatever might have to be catched in on next year's budget when you don't know what's coming down the pike is a lot of money. So I applaud you, Tara, for your fiscal conservatism and, get the numbers, get a bifurcated quote, and then decide what to spend and how, whether it's soft costs for this, that. So while High Mowing Road and the roads over there by Les may not be as bad as Sandra, there's probably a few places down there that could do with some help. And inverse speed bumps are not the worst thing in the world. You know, I went down there and I've got the video I took of it going down, and I even videotaped the pothole with the spray can around it, making a nice little figure 8 pothole. That was scary. But the ba-bum, ba-bum, bum-bum slows you down. That's it. Catch you later, and I'm under my 10 minutes.
Anyone else? Allison?
Hi, Alison Castellano, 9 Proud Court. Just wanted to give you a quick update on Hopefuls are back in town. They're back today for 4 days, working on the second of the 2 houses that they really spent a lot of time on. They were here the first time doing the demolition work for this house. They brought a team back this time to help start the rebuild of this house. So they started today, so it's great. Owner is really happy that she's getting some more help to rebuild her house, so it's really cool. Second thing is, just slight extra info on the bingo thing is that we're going to do 2 sessions. I'm going to do an earlier session for senior citizens. So if there are any seniors out there that are watching this, or you know of any seniors, please mention it to them. Not many. I did speak to one of our seniors on the in the senior citizen group. She says a lot of them don't have computers, and unfortunately I missed the meeting by 2 days for her to take it to the meeting to tell them about it. So other than making phone calls to every single one of them, if you know any seniors, please let them know. It's next Friday from 3 till 5 for them. They can call up the number, the township, and leave a message for our Parks and Recreation admin, who will help them sign up for it. And then the evening, 6:30 to 8:30, is for anybody to come. And the last thing is, I forgot to tell Christian about this one, but just to sort of put it out there, that Parks and Recreation are joining forces with the Ringo's Village Committee, and we are doing the township-wide home and house decorating contest this year. If you remember, the Village Committee did the village one last year. Was very successful and everyone loved it, but there were some people on the outside who were like, let me join. So the whole town would like to join in. Lots of people want to do that, so I think it'll be fun. We'll get some information out soon about how, the difference this year is we're going to ask people to send their own photos in of their home decorated, rather than sending people out to drive around every house in the town. That will take a very long time to take the photos. So we'll get that going. There'll be, we think it's unofficial yet. Darcy and I are chatting around with all this stuff, but prize for each district is a good way to go with that. So and we'll sort of farm the decision on the winner out to different committees maybe. So I think it'll be fun. So more information coming out on that online, obviously, but that's extra info. Thank you.
She just pushes the chair under. It's going to mute it.
Thank you, Allison. Anyone else like to speak from the public? Seeing no others, could I have a motion to close for the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda items. We approve these in one fell swoop. If anybody has questions about any of them, we'll remove it from the consent agenda. So could I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Castellano.
Yes.
Mr. Mills.
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey.
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski.
Yes.
And Mr. Roy.
Yes. There are no ordinances.
No resolutions.
I'm sorry, no resolutions tonight. We have a public hearing on one ordinance, which is to amend our salary and wage schedule. And go ahead, Krista.
We are going to make a minor change, as the assistant treasurer line will be increased from 35 to 40. If you guys are all good with that. We are going to be hopefully hiring an assistant treasurer, so this is just the, adjust the salary line.
The top end range.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Well, we're looking to hire an assistant CFO. And we interviewed somebody earlier this week and really liked that person, the we being Krista, Jason, Margaret, and myself. And we extended an offer to this person. I assume we haven't heard back yet?
No.
Okay.
No, but we just needed to increase that line to coordinate with the other line item that we have to meet the salary requirement.
Okay.
So this is good news, right? Because didn't we not have anybody favorable a
Yes,
month ago?
and she was the most qualified, so,
That's good.
yes.
Well, yeah, she
just
was
have
not only
to-
the most qualified of the applicants, but she actually was a very solid applicant.
Absolutely.
In fact, the one and only solid applicant we've seen in both rounds. And
Great.
she interviewed very well and was very impressive. Seems like a real go-getter. Somebody who thirsts for knowledge and wants to know why things are done the way they are as opposed to just following a model.
I'm gonna cut you because
I
we
was
need to
very
stick
impressed.
to the agenda.
Okay. Just giving a little background, but, so can I have a motion to open to the public?
This legal notice was published in the Hunterdon County Democrat on October 21st, 2021, and it was posted and available to the public since introduction on October 14th, 2021.
Okay, can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone from the public like to discuss this ordinance? Seeing no one coming forward, could I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion to adopt ordinance 21-18, amending the 2021 salary and wage schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Castellano?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski?
Yes.
And Mr. Wood.
Yes.
The adoption notice will be published in the November 18th issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the introduction and first reading of ordinance 21-19. I'm going to step out and recuse myself on this matter, and our municipal attorney will take over. If someone will just yell out to me when you're done.
Okay, Kristen.
Yes.
Ordinance 2119 is a ordinance for first reading tonight, not discussion. There will be a public hearing on it, but it's on the agenda to repeal this ordinance, which I know the committee is aware has been plagued with issues, the subject of litigation, and I think the intent on repealing it is to take a step back and look at the noise issue from a different perspective and reapproach it possibly in the future, but for the time being, this ordinance will be repealed, and that is the intent, very simply, of that ordinance. So we need a motion and a second to move ahead with that.
I'll move it.
Can I ask, can you just explain for everyone what the ordinance is, Frank?
This is a noise ordinance that was passed last year. It was passed in September of last year, addressing various noise issues in the township. It has been the subject of debate, the subject of litigation, the subject of other issues, and again, the repealing that ordinance is the committee would be, as I said, taking a step back on the issue to reassess what a noise ordinance in the future may look like or may not look like.
Why has it been the object of so much turmoil over the past year?
I don't want to get into the litigation and the subject matter of the litigation, but it's been, there's been a lot of issues as to the adoption of the ordinance. There's been issues as to Mayor Wolf's involvement in the ordinance, things of that nature. That is why he's recused from this. And again, the decision to repeal it is reflective of the troubled history of this piece of legislation.
So we introduce the removal of it tonight. In a month, it comes around for public hearing.
Correct.
The public will be allowed to come and discuss it
Correct.
and give their feedback on it as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you moved?
Yeah, I moved it.
Second.
Is everyone in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. I'll go again, Chris.
Okay.
All right, guys, we can do this.
That's the funniest thing I've heard all night.
Keep moving.
10 minutes, we got 10 minutes.
We're lucky to get out of here by 10.
Last night was quick.
All right.
All right.
Unfinished business?
Unfinished business,
I have an update on that.
Clausen House roof.
So tonight, on my way here, I got a message from Bill Burr, and we got the quote
Oh, good.
or the bid specs.
Right.
So we are. Let me just open the email real quick, and I'll tell you. We got the bid specs, and we are going out. We'll be advertising the bid next Thursday, November 18th, in the Hunterdon County Democrat, and we will have the bid opening November 30th here at the Municipal Building at 11 a.m. for the Clausen House roof.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah, good. Glad this is moving along.
Okay, so that takes care of Clausen House roof. I'm gonna jump to C because that one's easy. Marijuana within the township, that'll be discussed at our special meeting on December 1st, so unless somebody has something they wanna discuss tonight. Okay. Van Loo's Bridge update. Anybody have anything they wanna discuss?
Yes. I feel like we've talked about Bill Burr's a lot this meeting, but once more, Bill Burr's, John and I met with him today. Today, good timing. And I think at the next meeting, we will have what was he gonna do, like a letter for us?
Yeah, Bill recommended that we handle this in a two-step process, right? So some of the feedback we got from the residents there over on Van Loo regarding speed concerns and the widening of the roadway, I guess they cut it down from 30 feet to 28 at this point, but Bill is going to draft a letter, if everybody in the committee is comfortable with it, outlining what our concerns are, and I'll use the term, put the county on notice, and they can keep those recommendations and suggestions in mind as they move forward with the project. And additionally, once we get past that first initial step, we can look at some of the local concerns regarding calming of traffic, what we might want to do as a municipality. But I think the most important thing right now is, let the county know where we stand and give them the feedback that we got from residents, and go from there.
Where do we stand? In other words, what is this letter going to say? What is our position?
Our position is
28 feet wide.
Yeah, so we asked that the 2 feet be shaved off. Folks are concerned about speeding.
Well, 28 was already confirmed, so that's been confirmed by Tom Matthews from the county. So they did confirm that. They confirmed back to me what the structure of the bridge would look like. It's basically the update I gave last month. The only other new update is that we met with Bill officially. We've been corresponding with him for over a month. Now we have officially met. It's officially like on his list of things that he's supporting East Amwell with. Now he will come back to us with an official letter from him and his office that we will file with the county that addresses our concerns. And this project is not going to start until next year. It's likely not even going to start until, Tom told me, like Q2, Q3 of next year. The money's already been approved. It had nothing to do with COVID or IDA or anything, so the money's already been approved. This is a East Amwell Road, so we have to pay for and ultimately, put up the strips, the painting, the, anything that we do from a traffic calming standpoint. So the letter will be the concerns, it will be Bill's, I think, official, concerns of traffic calming and,
Recommendations regarding channelization, because folks, if there's a way that we can narrow that roadway as best that can be done. Things concerning the weight limits, as we talked about before, there won't be any signage for weight limits. There won't be any weight restrictions. Down the road, we might want to think about putting some signage up as a municipality, but that's where we stand for right now. We're basically memorializing what the concerns from the residents were, and
that's
what
been given to the county, but now it's reinforced by Bill. So that's the update.
Yeah. Was there anything included about a stop sign? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit.
We talked about that. Bill advised that there's a whole bunch of criteria from the MUPC regarding stop signs. It's not dead in the water. I think we still pursue it.
Yeah. It's just not something that
he gave a bunch of criteria why it would not
DOT doesn't like to put stop signs up
to slow people down
on a right of way like that. So, but again,
how difficult it is to put up a piece of metal.
They don't want it to slow traffic.
They
This is all the
like to keep
DOT.
traffic moving, not stop it.
Yeah.
But guys, I don't think it's over, right? I mean, I don't think, if we want to really push this, we certainly can, and I think that's where Bill's letter comes in, and then we continue to work with the county. If we want to push for this, we can.
Yeah, I know a lot of people.
there would have to be significant justification to do stop signs.
But I think as a township
we may or
committee,
may not
if
be
we
able to
think
get that
this is
accomplished.
important, then we can push for it.
I think everybody on that street would
All
want
right,
stop signs.
I have a different take on this, and I've been corresponding with Tom Matthews. I have been trying to get Tom Matthews to tell me what laws require that this be a two-lane bridge, and he keeps ducking my question, which leads me to believe that there may not be state laws that require this, and this may just be a county policy. And so what I have said to Tom Matthews is that, in my view, the residents, particularly the residents who live in that area, want that to continue to be a single-lane bridge, a country bridge, not some concrete monstrosity.
30 feet, 28, it's double the size it is today.
Right, and if it has to be 28 feet, that's fine, but then I want a dedicated pedestrian walkway with a guardrail so that pedestrians can cross it without risk of getting hit by traffic, and make the rest of the bridge a single lane. So it remains a single lane bridge with a dedicated pedestrian walkway. It continues to look like a country bridge and not like, for example, the bridge on Manners Road, which doesn't look like a country bridge. And we need to carefully think about what we're going to do to have traffic calming leading up to and coming out of the bridge, because when they shave down that hill to put in the new bridge, that's going to make that roadway a speedway, worse than it is in parts now. The stop sign, I don't think that's a state issue. That's not a state road. And the problem with traffic engineers is they're geared towards speeding the flow of traffic. And what I said to Tom is, that's fine on state highways. It may even be fine on certain county roads. It's not fine on back country roads. Back country roads, we don't want to promote speeding traffic. We want to inhibit speeding traffic. We don't have our own police force. We go hat in hand to Delaware Township and the state police to try to get enforcement. That enforcement is spotty at best. So we have to take traffic calming into our own hands. This isn't just an issue on Van Loo's, it's an issue on a number of our roads. But I'm not going to try to eat the elephant in one bite. I'll take it a forkful at a time, and the first forkful ought to be Van Loo's. And a letter from our engineer along the lines of what I envision this letter will look like isn't going to do anything to address these concerns. If we want to do something to address these concerns, we as a township committee and the residents have to take the initiative to address it. We have to send a stern letter to the county saying, this is what we want. Period. This is our municipality. This is what we want. What we want isn't going to cost you anything more than what you want. But this is what we want. And we don't want a two-lane bridge there. And I went through this with Tom Matthews years ago on another road in the municipality. And when you push, that's when you get things. And when you just gently nudge, people just push you to the side. So if we want to really do something about this, we have to push. We have to decide as a township committee, this is what we want. And if necessary, we have to go there with the residents, go to a county commissioners meeting with the interested residents, stand up during the open to the public, and say to the county commissioners, we don't want a monstrosity bridge. We want a one-lane country bridge. We'd love to keep the bridge that we have, but we understand it doesn't have redundancy. It is not safe. We understand you have to replace it. We want a one-lane country bridge. If you need it 28 feet, fine. Give us a dedicated walkway and make the rest of it one lane. We should have a dedicated walkway there, period. Because people walk, they run, they walk their dogs, they take their kids in strollers. They shouldn't be going over that bridge with cars and no protection. That to me is not safe. So that's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Rick, I agree with every single thing you said. I am one of those people that walk my dogs and my kids over that bridge. I have been talking about this for 2 months, so I think we need to come as one committee and not have these parsed out conversations between, I'm doing it, I didn't know you were doing it. We should come together and do this as a committee. So that would be my absolute ask, because there's power in numbers. We need to be unified on this. I agree with you, this is our town. So if you've had these conversations and I agree with you, let's send one letter as the town, but
It would have been helpful for me to know today, talking to the engineer, that you had a conversation, Rick, with somebody at the county, that I could have put that bug in Bill Burr's ear. But as Tyra is saying, there's no communication, so we don't know what's going on. So I agree with what you're saying, Tyra.
Let's come together, guys, because it's not as powerful, right? I mean, I think we're all on the same page. If he hasn't been able to give you the law or point to the law or whatever it is, the rule that says that it has to be a one lane, that's great. Let's keep pushing that, right? Let's ask for it, but let's do it together. Let's not have these individual conversations. It's not as powerful.
I don't disagree with any of that, but you all know that I'm very proactive on issues that matter to the residents. Anybody can pick up the phone and say, Rick, what are you working on?
Rick, in the past 3 meetings, or 2 or 3 meetings, whatever it is, I've been working on this.
And I've been working on it.
You said you had spoken with Tom once. I'm the one that's been
So
giving
that's
the
not
updates.
working on it, and I said more than that, but let's assume what you've said is
Okay,
correct.
then
That's not working on it.
After the meeting, and we can join forces on this.
You're welcome to reach out and email me and call me.
Okay. It goes both ways.
But I agree that we should speak as a township committee. And
Agreed.
if we're in agreement on the points that I made, then we ought to put together a letter.
Let's do it.
And so do you want to draft the letter?
I would love to.
Perfect. Why don't you draft it, circulate it, and we'll go from there.
I can send that to you.
Yes.
Great.
And then if need be, we go to a commissioners meeting.
I agree with that.
Now, I don't know if 5 of us can go to a commissioners meeting. I don't know if that constitutes, if that would violate the, well, you know what? If we publish it, we probably could. I mean, 5 of us walked a road, or 4 of us walked a road together a few years ago. We just published it in advance of doing it.
Take any action.
We're not taking any action. We're just going to express our view. And we would get as many interested residents as could make it that evening, because they have it twice a month. Now, it's early, which makes it inconvenient for some people, but it's 5 or 5:30. But we go and we just say, this is what we want. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Van Loo's, we are good for now. Krista, under new business, do you want to discuss?
So this is just more of a notification because I have the authority to change the policy manual per the ordinance and resolution we adopted at the beginning of the year. But as we gave the new full-time employees time this year, we kind of increased it. But for the 6-month cutoff, we kind of gave them more, and they're not going to be able to use it in time. Otherwise, they're losing it.
Right.
So we're just cutting that down.
Right.
We're just modifying it. I think it's like a day.
Right.
But
Yeah, it was in the
Google Drive when you,
and it was the little
Yes,
arrow.
yep.
Got it. Yep.
Yep, so we're just
Makes sense.
modifying in that piece.
Yep.
Just so it's more fair, so they can utilize the time given and not have to
Because
be
it went,
cut.
and wasn't there a correction? It was 2 days versus
Yes,
5.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
It just didn't coordinate with how the,
Got it.
the
No, it
6
makes
months
sense.
went.
Yep, makes sense.
And you don't need our approval?
I do not.
Okay. So then going on to the next
No, I'm
topic,
kidding.
the tree harvesting ordinance. I'm not really looking for any approval of anything this evening. I just want to get an idea on the table. We have a tree cutting ordinance. It's not a particularly well-drafted ordinance as a practical matter. The words are fine, the practicality isn't there. But to make a long story short, if you're going to cut down more than a minimum number of trees, you have to come in and pull a permit. However, if the trees are dead or diseased or meet certain other criteria, you don't have to come in and pull a permit. And what we're having happen is people come in, cut down 20 trees in a day, have a track hoe there that takes out all the stumps, and a neighbor will call Krista and say, hey, my neighbor cut down 20 trees. Krista will look, the neighbor had no permit, and there's nothing Krista can do because when she gets there, the evidence is gone. And even if she can see where they dug out 20 stumps, the resident will say, yeah, but these were all dead. And there's no way of knowing whether that's true or not. And given that we are going to lose, according to NJDEP, in excess of 1 million ash trees on the Sauerland Mountain, and given that we are having other tree issues on the Sauerland Mountain, we don't want people just randomly cutting down swaths of trees when there's no good reason for doing it, when the trees are not dead or diseased. So we need to revisit the tree ordinance because Krista's being put in a very bad position. She has a resident saying, my neighbor cut down 20 trees, do something, and Krista goes to the neighbors, well, they were dead. Well, what does she do at that point? So we need to revisit our tree cutting ordinance and make revisions. And it may be that, except in emergency situations, if you want to cut down trees, you have to come in and get a permit before you cut down the trees. That way, if somebody is saying, I'm going to cut down 20 or 40 dead trees, we can get an arborist out there and confirm that the trees are dead, that they're not cutting down 20 perfectly healthy trees to put in a tennis court or whatever. So there's nothing to approve tonight. I just wanted to get it on the radar screen that we're going to revisit the tree cutting ordinance. My guess is this is going to be somewhat contentious, that there are going to be people who come in and say, I should be able to cut down all my trees if I want to. It's my property. I should be able to do whatever I want. So I'm expecting this to be a somewhat contentious issue, but we'll deal with that down the road. Over the next few months, we're going to work with the Sauerland Conservancy. We're going to work with Raritan Headwaters. We're going to work with some other organizations that have expertise on this so that we're not just shooting from the hip. And we're going to try to put together a more sensible tree cutting ordinance.
Mayor, has this been referred to the Environmental Commission yet?
We are going to involve the Board of Health, the Environmental Commission, the Planning Board to get their input. But we're also going to go to experts. We're going to go to the Sauerland Conservancy, like I said, Raritan Headwaters, and a few others, and get their input. and try to do a real tree cutting ordinance. If you have any models, I'd love to see them. If you're aware of any municipalities that have tree cutting ordinances that you think are sensible, well done, I'd be happy to look at models.
I'll circulate you some.
Perfect.
And I
And-
just want to note that it states that we have a tree fund in here. We do not have a tree fund.
Yeah, I saw
established.
that in there.
We do not have one.
So,
So no one is actually paying then when they,
That is not,
because you're supposed to, over a certain number of trees. pay.
right, yeah,
Yes.
contribute to this
we
fund.
don't have that.
We don't have that.
One-
Have we ever had one?
No. It was never established.
This, I think this ordinance was put in place in response to a farm near Mayan where somebody went through and cut down a lot of trees in one shot, and the ordinance, I'm right, Les, it was a farm near Mayan, right? Yeah, I thought so. I remember reading about it when it happened. And it's not that it's a bad ordinance, but it's just, in this environment,
Something you can
we need to
enforce.
protect our trees. Mother Nature is destroying enough of our trees. We don't need people with chainsaws running around destroying the rest of them when there's no good reason to do it. So we're gonna work on that. It's gonna probably take a few months, and we'll keep the township committee in the loop. Okay, so that's it on that. Now, we're now up to our second open to the public. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone want to speak? Francis?
Not there. It's within my sphere of influence and it goes wild. Francis Gavigan, still 123 Wurtsville Road. A bit of history, since we're a historical township. In 2005, the bridge by Dutch Lane and the bridge by the golf course had federal funding, all approved, shovel ready, good to go. We can, and individuals sitting up there, when we came and asked about it and what could be done, oh, we can't do anything. It's all funded. It's all done. Well, guess what? The residents said no. We went to the freeholders at the time. We formed a public-private partnership of the local businesses, of the residents, the emergency corps, the fire company, individuals, and we negotiated and we hired the public-private partnership. We hired an engineer from New Jersey DOT because you couldn't really hire an engineer who would go and tell the county and the state and the feds no, because that's where they get their money from. So we got an educator. The freeholders had a meeting on Wurtsville Road with all of the freeholders in attendance. They made modifications that we agreed on, and it wasn't a top-down thing, it was a bottom-up to get an accommodation because the people wanted it. And I remember chasing through all of this stuff, and if you talk to Terry and all that, we negotiated from a position of power. And the committee, the freeholders went along, and there were a couple members of the township committee at the time that were part of it, but it was led from below. They modified the bridge down there at the Totten Farm, which is why you'll see the stonework and the dark shading on the sides. And they held off building the one at the ridge for 2 to 3 years. They paid money, the county paid money to redesign it, because when they got out there and they saw 150 of us out there and the press and different folks and a ladder on the top of one lady's driveway that at the top of it, which was where the design, the engineers had designed, was going to be the top of the driveway, and there was a little Raggedy Ann doll sitting up there, and they could see that if as built, oil truck would never get down her driveway. The people are powerful. The people can make this happen. We know how to, and they're familiar with us coming from East Amwell to get something for it. And so, you know, if you call them up, yeah, I want that, and you call them up, and anybody else, they will hear, and you may get a bobblehead response. I don't know, but they're good people. But when the people get behind you, and Tara, I think your neighbors will, when you bring out the fact that that stop sign you want there by the bridge is because there's a school bus stop there, and we have to protect the children. It is also a major crossing for the trail network, and it's to protect my four-legged children. The idea of having a bridge that would have safe walled-off access for whether it's a stroller or a child or a horse. You know, you might want to settle and agree on something that is wider the way the Manners Road Bridge is, which you can notice has that separated area for people to go across there at Willizowitz. You know, there are many ways to get to yes, and there are many ways to get to success. And the one thing that gets to a political animal's soul is the people. And the people, you know, for that road, you know, Chris, you were at the meeting with the county and Deb Benton and myself and a couple others, and we were there and they were listening and they gave the cards. If we go and we approach in a spirit of collaboration and as a township and with the knowledge that the public is waiting to weigh into this, then we can have a shared win, not a confrontation, and get to yes without damaging anything and to make it to be better. It's not Tom Matthews' decision. It's not any of us in this room's decision. It becomes a group one. Delaware Township went to the county and they have speed limits around the school. Well, they also went to the county and they got that lower speed limit extended much further. That is something you can do today with the county to get the speed limits and the enforcement lowered on John Ringo Road all the way up to Toad Lane. Hopefully we don't have to have, you know, tiki torches and people on the road, but we can get to yes if we work together, you know? And if I can do it, you can do it, you know? And I'm still friends with the individuals that were involved in that. And it ended up, all we had to do to change that design at the ridge, and it was geek to geek, engineer to engineer, was, okay, well, because of the way they calculate the roads and you have to have a certain speed limit, they lowered the speed limit 5 miles. They may not enforce it, but the speed limit being lowered 5 miles allowed the front yard of an 8-year-old girl at the time to be saved, and the trees. We worked with New Shippo because there was an historic property, etc. People came together, worked together, and got a win-win. And I am hoping that in this next coming year, and we'll welcome aboard the Love Boat, And I hope there can be a lot of camaraderie and collaboration across the aisles and not have it be as combative as it can and has been. I think there is a good spirit coming forward. I know you can get what you want if you do it smarter. And there are a lot of smart people in this room, at this table. And I would ask that you consider doing that. And Tara, you're the point person, you're drafting the letter. You may want to take into consideration about, hey, you know, the community may want to do what we did with the Wurtsville Road bridges and share safety and other issues that you may not be aware of. And when the freeloaders get involved, and they will always be freeloaders to me, you can get there. And you're tactful enough to incorporate that kind of information. And I still have contact with Dr. Shinoda, our engineer from New Jersey DOT. So, actually the College of Engineering of New Jersey over in Ewing. That's it.
Anyone else from the public like to speak? Seeing no one else, could I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bills of the evening. Could I have a motion to approve the bills of the evening?
So moved.
Second.
Krista?
Mr. Castellano?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Ms. Ramsey?
Yes.
Mr. Sobieski? And
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes. Could I have a motion to approve the administrative reports?
Just have one question.
Yep.
Yes.
Did we not get a report from Kenwood?
We haven't been getting reports from Kingwood. I'm assuming since the storm happened, we haven't really gotten anything.
Just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the administrative reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? On the correspondence, I'm gonna comment on one piece of the correspondence. The first piece, the Delaware Township Zoning Board of Adjustment public hearing. There is an auto repair shop that is owned by a person who bought a farm in Delaware Township. He wants to move his auto repair shop to the farm. So he came to the Delaware Township Zoning Board of Adjustment to seek a variance allowing him to run a commercial auto repair shop on a farm. My wife and I went to that hearing and I spoke out against that. I don't know what's going to happen with that. The Zoning Board of Adjustment put off the decision until tonight, and unfortunately I couldn't be there tonight for the decision, so I don't know whether they're going to grant the variance or not. But putting a commercial auto repair shop on a farm doesn't make a lot of sense to me, or allowing it on a farm did not make a lot of sense to me, particularly when this fellow who owns it described the way that it would operate. And it was not going to operate in a way that was particularly environmentally sensitive. And that farm happens to sit on top of an aquifer. And I can tell you that that farm, like my farm, that aquifer isn't very far below ground. I don't know what Delaware Township is going to do with that. There's another application pending before the Zoning Board of Adjustment in Delaware Township to put a commercial tennis facility on a farm. That also didn't make a lot of sense to me, not because of environmental issues, etc., but a commercial tennis facility being located on a farm, on a country road, with all that traffic coming to and from the tennis facility, and a host of other issues associated with the tennis facility. I know about that only because a resident who watched me testify before the Zoning Board of Adjustment called me a couple of days later to tell me about it. So I don't know whether that's going to get approved or not. I was going to have a chat with the people that I know on the Township Committee in Delaware Township and see how they feel about it. I know that if the Zoning Board of Adjustment grants this variance, it's likely going to be a D variance, and at least in some municipalities you can appeal D variances to the township committee. If you can't do that in Delaware Township, then the only choice is to take it to Superior Court, which I don't know. I'd have to think about whether I want to consider doing something like that. But I don't think that we should be allowing a commercial auto repair shop on a farm. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And the owner's saying, well, there won't be a lot of cars, there won't be a lot of business. Well, there will be cars, and ultimately the business will get bigger, and there'll be employees, and who's going to enforce whatever restrictions they put on it? I mean, this reminds me of another business in East Amwell that came to us and made certain representations, and then once it got approved and up and running, blew past those representations like they were never made, and we now have significant issues. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I assume we got a notice of this, the municipality got a notice of it because the farm in question is within 200 feet of our border. Otherwise, we would not have known about this.
Correct.
And the only reason I knew about it is because the farm in question, its property extends to within 200 feet of my farm, so I got the notice. And that's how I knew about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it. And I certainly would not have known about the commercial tennis facility. That's all I have on that, on the correspondence. If there are no other questions on the correspondence, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to adjourning? Krista?
Almost.